get it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the SchuZ Show. Hope you guys are having a phenomenal day, or if you guys obviously up there in another country, obviously it will be a now Friday. So hope you guys are having a great day. But with that being said, for those of us in America, obviously this day is being a day in which we reflect upon 9/11. So obviously I just want to spend time real quickly, just reflecting, honoring those that gave their lives that day, those that lost their lives, those that showed heroic efforts. This is a day that I don't ever want anyone to forget. This is a day that obviously impacted New York City. It impacted America, and ultimately, I think it impacted the entire world. It was a sign of evil that we will never want to see again. A moment that probably woke a lot of people up, and a day that I don't think we will ever forget. So I just want to always make sure that on 9/11 we do honor this day, a day of reflection, and a day to take time to make sure that we appreciate and love on those who lost loved ones in this day, that have been affected by this day, because this is a day that will never be forgotten. Just want to spend time real quickly and address that. With that being said, though, we're going to get into a lot of stuff on today's show. This includes the fight results of the Underdog card, which, let me just say this real quickly. It is labeled the Underdog. I enjoyed it. It was a good, solid boxing card, especially for a Thursday night, getting to be built up for the Canelo Alvarez, Bud Crawford. I did honestly enjoy the Underdog card. Whether you guys liked it or not, let me know your guys' thoughts in the chat. But I'm going to give you guys a breakdown of what all went down tonight on the Underdog card. Also going to give you guys a brief fight preview, which will be very simple, of Roman Gonzalez and his return to the ring tomorrow in Mexico. And then I'm going to get into some personal boxing subjects, which will be all different kinds of boxing news going down in the world of boxing over the past 24 hours. So if you guys have anything you guys want me to address on today's show, leave it in the chat, and I will make sure to address that throughout the duration of the show. Let's head right over into the fight results, though. The main event for tonight's card did feature a world championship. Anthony La Princesa stopped Juan Carlos Camacho in the second round. All right. This card, let me just say this real quickly. This card is listed as Underdog. It was supposed to possibly give a lot of guys, an opportunity to make a name for themselves, a lot of young guys to be able to become these quote-unquote underdogs and upset guys that have notable names. Now, as the results have now piled in from tonight's results, there were no upsets whatsoever. All the guys expected to win won their fights, and quite decisively as well. But I still did enjoy the card. I think it was a fun night of boxing overall. Let's get to the main event, though, as I said. La Princesa, a man that holds a 10-1 record with 7 KOs from Los Angeles, California. He dominated Puerto Rico's Camacho with a 19-2 record and 8 KOs. This was a second-round stoppage. Very quick fight. He defended his WBO flyweight belt. It was only 2 minutes and 33 seconds into the round, okay? This was a dominant performance. I'm extremely happy for Anthony, because this is a man who, when you're in the lower weight classes, you really only have one option to make money. That is to go all the way out to Japan and fight out there. And that is what this man has been having to do to earn his belts. He's pulled off upsets. He's been bouncing back. He's fought guys like Taraji. He has done and worked his way to becoming the man that he is today. And at last, Turkey actually gave him the opportunity to host and headline a main event on home soil. I think he deserved this. He is an incredible fighter, and he went out there and had one heck of a performance. Absolutely dominated Juan Carlos Camacho tonight, just a little bit ago. Thrilling fight, utter domination, beat the man down, got him up on out of there in 2 rounds. Beautiful performance from him. I'm excited to see what he's got next. I would like to see a unification. I think he's more than ready to go defend his belt, and on top of that, possibly add another belt to the layers. And that's what I see for Anthony. I think this is a man that could very likely go become a unified champion, but that's what I see next for himself. He is a guy where, there's not a lot of top guys in this weight class. There are some talented guys, but really, looking at the champions, that's the route I would go if I'm Anthony Alasquagua. So that's what he had in store for us. Other recap, Justin Villoria, he's an up-and-coming man. He had a dominant performance against Ortiz, in which he won every single round of the fight, according to all 3 scorecards. Jaleel Hackett, he had a round 3 knockout with 33 seconds remaining in the round. Dominant performance, Jaleel Hackett. They had to end the fight stoppage. Absolutely beautiful performance. This is a man that, remember, lost last year, is slowly building his name back up. Very exciting fight. And as long as this fight did last, it was very entertaining as well. Emiliano Alvarado, he defeated Juan Garcia by majority decision. And then Jamar Talley, he defeats Anthony Holloway by unanimous decision. All scorecards, he won 60-54 on, except for the final one, which read 59-55. So that's your boxing results for tonight's card. As I said, I was thoroughly entertained. I think it was solid for a Thursday night, building up to Bud Crawford, Canelo Alvarez. Good performances. The Underdog name maybe is a little bit, inaccurate, because not a single underdog won in this fight, but still, it was a solid night of boxing. I'm not going to complain. It was fun to watch it. Let's get into a quick fight preview, though. Roman Gonzalez, he'll be making his return tomorrow in Mexico against Hector Robles. This is a fight that I'm not going to preview too often. I usually will give you guys in-depth stats about each and every single fighter in this fight. Let me just make this very clear. Roman Gonzalez should put an absolute beating on Hector Robles. This is a man that is 13-8 in his career. Obviously, Roman Gonzalez is much better than that. He is going to win by stoppage. This is just to get back, see where he's at, and if he can make a return, possibly go challenge one of the top guys at 115. So it should be an easy win for himself out in Mexico. That's what's in store for Friday. Let's get into some boxing subjects, though, because over the past 24 hours, a lot of stuff went down, including a lot of fights got announced or at least are nearing agreements. So let's hop into those. First and foremost, Shakur Stevenson versus Teofimo Lopez is reportedly a done deal. They just need to get finalized, and hopefully that deal should be finalized by the end of the week. Massive news there. I will make a much more in-depth prediction preview of the fight when it does get announced officially. But hey, if you are Teofimo Lopez, Shakur Stevenson, hats off to both guys. Get the deal done. This fight is done, hopefully going to be announced by the end of this weekend, maybe early next week. And if it is, absolute beautiful card. Two guys I think will be a very fun fight to watch. Now, not all people will enjoy it, but personally, if you do love boxing and you like skill sets, you like those type of aspects, this will be a good technically sound fight. So I am looking forward to Shakur Stevenson, Teofimo Lopez. Hopefully that does get officially announced in the coming days. Errol Spence, Jermell Charlo are in negotiations to fight in early 2026. Listen, this has to be shook up because, listen, when we look at this possible fight here, we saw Jermell Charlo going out and posting those AI graphics of all these different guys at 154. I personally thought he was just getting a little bit ahead of himself and having some fun with AI. I still think he was going to go do a tune-up fight, but I did make this very clear last week. I said this. If Jermell Charlo and Errol Spence were to come back with a big fight, this is the only one that makes sense. Why is that? Because both guys have been outside of the ring for equal amounts of time. If you go fight any other top big name at 154, you are going to be in for a massive mismatch in terms of ring activity. Both guys will be a little bit rusty heading back into that ring. They have not fought a professional fight in 2+ years, depending on when they get back into that ring. Therefore, a Virgil Ortiz, a Jerome Boots Ennis, any of those types of guys, it was going to be a mismatch from that standpoint. I never thought that'd make sense unless they go out there and do a tune-up fight. But this one right here makes plenty of sense, and I hope it does happen. I think Jermell Charlo, Errol Spence would be a magnificent fight for them both to come back in. Because why? Both guys have equal ring rust and ring inactivity, and both guys are still solid fighters, I believe. So I would love to see this fight happen. I think it would be a fun fight. Hopefully they get this deal done in early 2026. Here's the big one. Lamont Roach and Pitbull Cruz is a done deal at 140. It will go down in December. Massive props. All right. This is huge news right now for Lamont Roach, and here's why. Lamont Roach, he should have a W right now and be world champion at 135 because he did beat Gervonta Tank Davis. That's my take, and I believe he did beat Gervonta Tank Davis in that fight. Therefore, Lamont Roach should currently be holding a world championship at 135. But instead of just sitting out and just waiting for Gervonta Tank Davis, this man is moving on as he should. He is not going to go take a massive fight right now, though. I think he is waiting for a Shakur Stevenson. He is waiting for maybe even a Richardson Hitchens, a Teofimo Lopez, one of those types of guys. And in the meantime, he's not going to go take a useless tune-up fight. And I appreciate him for that. He's going to go fight a man, Isaac Pitbull Cruz, at 140. Remember, currently, Lamont Roach is the world champion at 130. Which is mind-boggling. This man will be fighting 2 weight classes up from where he is world champion against Pitbull Cruz, a former world champion who is a good fighter, a very difficult, tricky fighter as well. And that's going to be his quote-unquote tune-up fight to keep him active and get him ready for his mega fight, which hopefully does deserve a massive payday. I am intrigued by this, though. If you are Lamont Roach, he is a technically sound fighter, a very good fighter. Not a lot of output, but a very skilled fighter, very calm, composed fighter. And we saw that with Tank Davis. I think that's why it frustrated Tank, because Tank is a man that does not like to be very active either. He's a man that thrives against activity because he can go sit back in the pocket. He can wait around, utilize his technicality, and just make sure he lands the shots he needs to land. That didn't really work against a guy like Lamont Roach, who is equally as patient as Tank Davis is. This is why this fight is very interesting. Isaac Pitbull Cruz is, in my opinion at least, it's between him, Subro Matias, as the 2 most active with high ratio outputs that we see in boxing today. When I look at those two guys are going to go out there and land an extremely large amount of punches in a 12-round fight. They will be landing I don't even know what it's going to be. Probably 50, 80 plus, whatever punches is per round. They do not let up. Williams and Zepeda could throw in that group as well. And this is interesting because for Lamont Roach, you're moving up in weight class again. Inoue-MJ Cruz is a good fighter, and you're going to be going up against a guy that's not going to let down at any point. This is a tricky fight. I will give Lamont Roach the edge right now if I were to give you guys a prediction. I will not make an official prediction up until the fight night, or the fight week, I should say. But this is tricky. This is definitely not a tune-up fight, and that's why I'm very intrigued by this. Lamont Roach has a chance to elevate his name even more. Because if he puts on a masterclass against Inoue-MJ Cruz, we're going to be talking about a man that should have beat Tank Davis, was already world champion at 130, should have become world champion at 135 by beating Tank Davis, and now is fighting one of the bigger names at 140. That would be one heck of a remarkable run from Lamont Roach. And this would be huge for his name as well. And then he could obviously stay at 140, go back down to 135, maybe even 130. I don't know what he's going to have in store. But this fight's intriguing to me. I'm excited for it. I think it's a perfect fight for both guys. I think Inoue Cruz has an equally good chance of winning this fight. That high output, some judges love that. And if Lamont Roach does not know how to give any kind of output in that fight, it could be tricky. Because against a guy like Tank Davis and other guys, they have the equalizing power. Now, obviously, I do believe they went to the distance against Tank Davis and Inoue-MJ Cruz, but still, this is going to go to the distance most likely, unless Inoue Cruz stops him. So, very intriguing fight right there. I'm excited for that fight to go down in December. Let's head over now to some fights that got announced as well. Naoya Inoue will officially defend his ring and undisputed super bantamweight world titles against David Piscasio on December 27th in Riyadh season, Saudi Arabia. That's not all, though. Junta Nakatani will make his super bantamweight debut as the co-main event for Naoya Inoue versus David Piscasio. And, all right, I'm not going to get ahead of myself yet, but this will be huge. Hopefully, this does pan out to be that Japan versus Mexico card, which I think would be amazing to watch. But here's the good news. Do you see what's happening? We all know the biggest fight you can make in boxing right now, in my opinion, is Anthony Joshua versus Tyson Fury. However, the one that rivals it is Inoue and Junta Nakatani. So let me kind of paint this picture for you guys. Assuming Inoue defeats MJ, which I think he will do with ease on Sunday morning, my time, and Junta Nakatani will go out there and defeat whoever he's fighting here, and then Inoue obviously defeats David Piscasio. You set yourself up to possibly have a face-off in the ring on December 27th between these two guys to set up a mega fight at the Tokyo Dome in Tokyo, Japan in 2026 between Junta Nakatani and Naoya Inoue. That's the fight we could have. So there's a chance that we have both AJ and Fury and Inoue and Nakatani both take place in 2026, which would be absolutely insane for the sport of boxing. All right, here is maybe the most shocking news that I have seen in boxing in quite some time. Adam Azim is re-signing with Boxer. The world-ranked super lightweight contender Adam Azim has signed a new promotional deal with Ben Shalom's Boxer. I'm sorry. When I saw this news get announced, I legitimately was shocked. I made a tweet immediately just saying, wow, hats off to Ben Shalom. I don't know how you pulled this off. Absolutely a miracle that he pulled off this deal to keep Adam Azim. I am mind-boggled by this. I thought it was a guaranteed lock that Adam Azim would be moving on from Boxer and signing with the Matchroom, Queensberry, whatever it was. So when I saw the news that he was re-signing with Boxer, my mouth dropped. I mean, I was legitimately shocked at this because I had a segment on this maybe 2 weeks ago where I talked about this. Adam Azim is a fighter I'm very intrigued about. I think Adam Azim could be a world champion in the near future. However, what Boxer has done with him over the duration of the past year has been embarrassing. Absolutely embarrassing. To the point where I've looked at this that they are disrupting his entire career right now. And yet, Adam Azim is re-signing with Boxer. I do not know the terms of this deal, but he is a current man that's ranked at super lightweight, and he's signing a new long-term, or a new deal at least, with Ben Shalom's Boxer. Absolutely shocking me. I thought it was almost a foregone conclusion that this man would be moving on to a new promotional company, but here it is. He is re-signing with Boxer. So that is massive for Ben Shalom. I do not know how they managed to do that. I don't know why Adam Azim is going back to Boxer. I think it's a little bit foolish, but Ben Shalom deserves a lot of credit for this. He found a way to get the TV deal, and now he found a way to keep Adam Azim. I do not know how many other guys he'll keep. Obviously, Ben Whitaker still on the verge. You have Fraser Clark on the verge. You have many other guys still on the verge of possibly jumping ship from Boxer. But at least he's got Adam Azim, which is probably one of his biggest, if not his biggest named guy signed his promotional company right now. All right. Couple of things before I get back into Canelo and Bud Crawford. One of which is this. Sunday's Naoya Inoue versus MJ Undisputed Super Bantamweight title fight. We have now got the details on how Americans can watch this fight, and here it is. You will get the fight that is one of the most hyped up fights Inoue has been a part of in quite some time on Top Rank's Facebook page. The broadcast will begin at 4 a.m. Eastern Time, and the main event is slated for 6:40 a.m. Eastern Time. All right, listen, I am shocked. One of the most anticipated Inoue fights is going to be taking place on Facebook. Hey, I'm not going to complain here. I get to watch Naoya Inoue versus MJ for free on Facebook. I get it. It's hilarious. I do not know how a fight of this magnitude is just being placed up onto Facebook. I still think Top Rank from a promotional company, that's ridiculous. But it took a lot of time. But we have a TV deal. I get to watch the fight. It's going to be on in America, and it's going to be 100% free. Literally just have to go to Facebook, have an account, and watch it. I don't know how this all came to fruition. Obviously, I have to imagine they had other plans, and they all fell through, so they have to go put it on Facebook. But I'm not going to complain. I'm happy with it. It's odd to see, in a way, a fight of this caliber just taking place on Facebook Live, but I'm not going to complain. Free boxing at the highest level for free. I'll take it. EIFERT-WALLACE has now been ordered. The IBF has now ordered their number 1 and number 2 fighters, Michael EIFERT and Conor Wallace, to fight for the IBF interim light heavyweight title as Dimitri Bivol is injured. All right, very solid fight here. I had on Conor Wallace's manager, Mick Francis, last week. He hinted at this being in store for us, and with Dimitri Bivol not being able to fight right now, we're going to see this interim start to pile up at light heavyweight. One of which will be this, Michael EIFERT, Conor Wallace. Who will be my prediction here? I'm going to go with Conor Wallace. I think he is a phenomenal fighter. He's learned from his loss. He's improved greatly. Michael EIFERT's a good fighter, but I do not think he's been through the ropes as much so as Conor Wallace has, because you have to factor in, Conor Wallace has great team around him. He spars some really good fighters in camp. Also, he's fought some really good fighters in the ring in professional fights as well. So I will give the edge to Conor Wallace. I'll have to break it down more so as I get closer to that fight, but that fight has now been ordered. All right, remember now, if you guys have any comments, topics, or questions for me to discuss on the show, leave it into the chat, and I will address that as I go throughout the duration of the show. Also, I'll put on the screen real quickly. You guys' chat should pop up on the screen so you guys can see your comments as well. But with that being said, let's get into, to wrap this show up, a couple of topics regarding Canelo and Bud Crawford. Today, we got to witness the press conference. Very entertaining. It was very fun, especially the couple back-end parts, some highlights of it. If you guys did not see it, the Sean Zedell, obviously a good boxing reporter. Him challenging Dana White was quite interesting. Obviously, we didn't get any answer to the Muhammad Ali act, but it was a very entertaining scene right there. And then, probably my favorite part of it, Max Kellerman going back and forth with Canelo in regards to the UFC versus boxing debate. Obviously, I still believe worldwide boxing is bigger. I would say in America, though, UFC is rivaling boxing today. That is my personal opinion. It is rivaling it. Worldwide, boxing is still supreme. However, that was a very entertaining portion as well. We will now head into weigh-ins tomorrow on Friday, but that is that. Let's get into some topics though in regards to this. The first one is this. What will be the biggest thing to look for from Canelo and Bud Crawford early in the fight to dictate whether or not we will have a victor be named Canelo Alvarez or Terrence Bud Crawford? Now, a lot can be said about this situation. I will preview you guys in depth on tomorrow's show. However, I'm just going to point this out right now. I think the biggest thing we have to look for Canelo Alvarez is this. Where is he from a physical standpoint? I do not believe that the Canelo Alvarez that we saw in his prime is here anymore. I believe he has gone through so many fights, he has so much wear and tear, that the prime Canelo Alvarez is a thing of the past. And that's fine, because Canelo Alvarez is still a top 10 fighter. But to what extent are we going to see Canelo Alvarez in the ring on Saturday? Where is his speed going to be? Where is his power? Where is his explosiveness? How is all those things going to level up in comparison to prime peak Canelo Alvarez? It did not look good against William School. It did not. Now, I give a lot of blame to William School. Obviously, that man was a joke in the ring that night. However, prime Canelo Alvarez would not have allowed a man to do what William School did in that fight. That's my personal opinion. Part of me believes that Canelo Alvarez, we saw an aspect of him that he just was not all there. Now, did he know he could demolish William School and was 10 times better of a fighter? Sure. Did he really take the camp as seriously as he probably is for Bud Crawford? Probably not. And that's fine. It all worked out. But I'm just intrigued by that. Where is he from a physical standpoint? How far past his prime is he? That's what you can really pick up on early in the fight. For Bud Crawford, here's the obvious one. Size. size and speed, to be honest. Because here's one aspect. I personally do believe he is going to have the size to battle with Canelo Alvarez. I think Canelo will still be the bigger man in that ring, but Bud Crawford, we have seen the way he's looked with the pictures, the videos, the way he's been training with weight training, all the different aspects. He is going to have a lot of those attributes in the ring. I do not actually think size will be that big of a factor, but we do have to realize that. And you're going to notice that real quickly in that fight. My biggest thing is this. With the added size, I mean, we are talking about a man that is jumping 3 weight classes in a little bit over a year. All right? That is a big jump. How does that impact his size or his speed and his athleticism inside that ring? We already looked at Israel Madrimov, who I will give credit to Bud. He's a tricky fighter. It was his first fight at 154, but listen, Canelo Alvarez is a better fighter than Israel Madrimov. And that's a fact at the end of the day. So how does Bud Crawford's speed, what he's always been so well known for, his ability to explosion, all those different aspects, how is that going to look with the added on weight? Those are the biggest things to keep an eye on. And I think both of those factors for both Canelo and Bud Crawford are things that we will be able to identify really early on in that fight. I'm guessing within the first 3 to 4 rounds, we will know exactly how Bud's size is holding up as well as the speed and how that size is impacting him. And we will know exactly where Canelo stands from how far past his prime he is. Those are things that you can see real early in that fight. So that's why I think this will be a fight that it's going to take some time to settle down, but I really do see those mid rounds to the late rounds really getting going. I will just say my way too early preview of this, and I will go in depth. And I mean, probably a 10-15 minute segment tomorrow on tomorrow night's show when I preview this fight. But just a way too early preview, I do not think this fight will be a knockout for either man. I think this will go to the distance. And so that is an early factor to notice. I think we will see how this fight's going to start going and trending within the first 3 to 4 rounds. My early opinion there. Let me know your guys' thoughts though in the chat. Here's the other thing I want to wrap up today's show with though. And that is in regards to this fight. All right. I know there's so many people that have different opinions on Canelo Alvarez versus Terrence Bud Crawford. And I hear them all, and I honestly do see them. I get them. They're all valid points, all valid emotions and feelings. Here's what I will say about this fight going down on Saturday. This is 2 of the best fighters of this entire generation. Canelo Alvarez, Bud Crawford are currently 2 of the top 10 pound-for-pound fighters. This fight will be taking place on Netflix. Whether or not this ends up being a top 3 gate in all of boxing history, whether or not this is the most watched fight that we have had since Spinks and Muhammad Ali, as Max Kellerman said, regardless of whether or not those are all true facts, this fight will bring in a massive gate, and this fight will bring in a massive TV audience. Those 2 things are massive for our sport. And you can't twist that. Whether or not it ends up being a top 3 or a top 5 or a top 15 fight in all time in terms of those numbers in boxing, that is good for the sport. Why do you look at the NBA today and you see them constantly trying to create big events? They put the in-season tournament into the NBA in early NBA seasons. Why? Because it drags up viewership, brings more eyes because it is a big event. The NFL, they do these massive events in other foreign countries, just like they did to kick off the season in Brazil with the Chiefs. These are situations where, as an organization, when boxing does not have that, this is whatever it is, just a scramble of craziness going on in boxing. There's no structure, but you need these big events. A lot of these events that we have today with pay-per-views, a lot of these events that we have in boxing today where, you have to pay pay-per-view walls. And when it comes to DAZN, I love DAZN. They've been great for boxing. They're helping the sport. But 90% of people around the world don't know what the heck DAZN is. That's just a fact. They're very, very brand new. Not a lot of people have access to it. Not a lot of people even know what DAZN is. And so when you factor these things in, it is so difficult to grow the sport of boxing. And in today's world, specifically in America, the branding of these athletes is not doing very good. We have a lot less high-profile boxing athletes in today's era of boxing than we have ever had in the history of boxing in America. Those are problems and what are impacting tremendously, in my eyes, the sport of boxing and its growth. Because when you look particularly in America, America is the place you come for fame. That is very well regarded. In any industry, you can create great fame in America. And if it's not a very popular sport in America, we see the ripple effects going on. The biggest name that is truly American, if you want to include Jake Paul, go ahead. He probably is that man, is Tank Davis, a man who does not want to fight any of the top guys. And so my point in this is this. When you get an opportunity at last to have a mega boxing fight that has a chance to rank up among some of the top 15, 20, whatever it is, fights that has ever gone down in terms of a gate, in terms of viewership in the history of the sport, That right there is huge for the health of boxing in America, but at boxing as health at large. Absolutely huge. And that's why when I look back at the situation, I'm not going to slaughter and slam Turkey Al-Sheikh and boxing fans and Canelo and Bud Crawford for taking this fight. This fight is massive for the sport of boxing and its health. In fact, might even go this far to say this. The sport of boxing needed this fight to happen. It is going to draw a massive audience to see real boxing. Remember what the takeaway was from Mike Tyson, Jake Paul? Yeah, it was a massive spectacle. Yes, a lot of people tuned into it, but what was the big thing? There was countless. Now, I know a lot of people tuned in didn't know anything about boxing, but we had so many garbage takes going on about, hey, this fight was rigged, this fight was dumb, it was a waste of time, so on and so forth. And guess what? Yes, it had boxing trending, but at the same time, a lot of people were turned off by that fight. A lot of people looked at it and there were a lot of excuses and stuff going on, rightfully so. This is real boxing right here. Regardless of whether or not you think Bud should be moving up 2 weight classes or maybe call it 3, this is 2 legitimate fighters. 2 of the best guys currently in boxing, 2 of the best guys of this generation. When you put those 2 guys in the ring, they will both put on some form of a show and people will be able to see the best of the best boxers. And that is good for the health of the sport. So when we look on Saturday, and I then talk to you guys on Monday, breaking down what goes down on Sunday and Saturday between all the different fights, I will be able to tell you guys, listen, we had a massive audience finally get to go watch Terrence Bud Crawford, something that a lot of Americans and people around the world have not done yet. Canelo, obviously, is a different story. He's the face of boxing right now. But those 2 guys on a massive scene is great for the health of the sport. I think it will do wonders for boxing, both on Saturday, but then going forward as well. And hopefully we have more of these types of events. So when I look at this, yes, Canelo versus Bud Crawford is massive for the sport, and I cannot wait to see it. This will be awesome. So that is my take. As I said, that will wrap today's show because I do not see any more comments in the comment section. But I just want to let you guys know, tomorrow I'll be going live roughly at 6:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. I have another show that I'm going to be doing off air for my Path to Cross podcast that is available on my other YouTube channel. But that's not a live show. It's going to be pre-recorded for a podcast that released on Sundays. But I will be going live right after that wraps up, and I will be going into a lengthy show, which will be breaking down the Donovan Crocker fight card, the Canelo Bud Crawford fight card, as well as Inoue versus MJ fight card. So make sure to tune in for that. It will be a long show. Hope you guys can tune in, give me your guys' predictions and thoughts on the weekend, who you guys have winning those fights. But that's what I've got for today's show. Hope you guys have a blessed rest of your guys' day. I will see you guys back live tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. May God bless you guys all, and I will see you guys tomorrow. God bless. SchuZ out.